And let us start. Okay, so let me officially welcome you to our second session for this month. We're still focusing on sales. And today we're going to be focusing on objection handling. So all the things that people generally have challenges with, what happens when people say no, how are we going to be able to recover from that is what we'll talk about today. But before we get into that, as always, I like to start out with our celebrations. So what is it in your life this week or your business that you would like to lift up and have us celebrate? So whoever wants to go first can just kind of jump in.
I'll jump in. I'm going to go personal.
Yes.
So I'm going to actually extend this back 7 days so that it fits technically within a week. Because I want to celebrate what happened last week.
Yeah, go ahead. I'm with you, girl.
Okay. So yeah, I got a chance to go on vacation, and even though it, and I've got to say, it started out super rocky, including so rocky that my mother and daughter were on the plane to Los Angeles, and I did not make it on that plane.
What?
That's how super rocky. Yes. My mother in the wheelchair and my daughter were on the plane to Los Angeles, 7 a.m. in the morning, rental car and everything. I'm at the gate. There are all sorts of reasons for that. None of them were my fault.
I know how you roll.
Let me just, yeah. So, yeah, but anyway, it just, and her equipment, medical equipment, they picked up the wrong luggage when they got to Los Angeles. So like her medical equipment wasn't there. And so anyway, they got in at 9, I got in at 5. It was just, crazy. So this doesn't sound like something to celebrate.
I'm waiting.
But the luggage was, I was able to find the luggage with the equipment, even though the hotel said nothing was there in terms of supplies, it was. And once all of that was resolved and we settled into the weekend, it was great. The main thing that I had wanted to do was to go to the Pasadena Chalk Festival, as I'm working internally on areas of letting go and seeing this work of art that was just so ephemeral, that people have such a generosity of spirit to create, and the courage to create beauty that they can't possibly keep is just such a lesson for me. And it was on my bucket list. I had been thinking about it for like over a year, and I actually made it happen. So there were other wonderful things that happened during the weekend as well. And boy, did I have to work. I mean, wow, right? But it was just really worth it. And I think that part of that was even like a letting go lesson for me.
Of course.
Yeah. I mean, when I land in Dallas and I'm looking at my, they're in LA. I've set up everything with the hotel. Everything's cool. Everything's great. Oh, okay, great. The equipment is missing now. At that point, I literally was like, you know what, God, I can't wait to see how you're going to work this one out. Because I'm fresh out of ideas. So it was even like that whole lesson of letting go, even just making the trip. And it just went from there. So I felt very uplifted and strengthened. And so it turned out to be a wonderful trip.
Yes. Which didn't come from, well, I couldn't have told that from the beginning that you were telling. But what a powerful lesson for all of us.
Yeah.
It is really hard to let go. And as ambitious women who are hardworking and talented as we are, we do, part of our success is kind of managing and being on top of everything, but that can also work against us. And so learning that skill of, we can't control it all. We've done our best and turn it over. And even the art of, as you said, like everything that we create that's beautiful is not meant to be permanent, but it doesn't take away from its value. So that was really, that's a great lesson. And Yeah, I'm glad that you were able to do something that you'd wanted to do for a while, and you kind of went ahead and did it. And I'm glad that you had overall such a great
Yes, it was beautiful.
if it
Everything, it was
not
worth
to
it.
give up, because
That's right.
yeah, that would have been tempting. Like, okay, clearly this isn't the trip for us.
Right, right. You know, but it gets to that self-care piece, and it's so critical, and we don't do it nearly enough.
Yeah.
And it's, you know, but when you do it, like, boy, it's such a testament to, yeah, you need to keep doing this,
Yes.
you know. And
Yes.
it was like, yeah, California, yeah, all that, but just, that's just a lesson
Yes.
that
And
I
that's
need to
actually
learn.
what I was going to ask you. So now, having had that experience,
Yeah.
what is it that you know now that you didn't necessarily know before?
I know that even if I go into something not sure that, you know, of the outcome, or not sure that, um, you know, I've put all of this effort in, like, is the effort worth it? Well, actually, what makes the effort valuable isn't what happens after the effort is expended. It's that you put everything into it with just the expectation that the creation of that moment of beauty is enough.
Yes.
And yeah, and you know, you can generously give that out, and there's actually more beauty that you can create.
Again.
Again, yeah. This wasn't like your, oh, this is my one, you
That's
know.
it.
No,
I'm it. Yeah.
that's right. There's more. There's more. So
I'm so glad we have this on tape, because I think it's the message that we need to listen to over and over again.
yes.
And I'm so glad it is on this session, because that's what I think sales is. What
Mm-hmm.
you just described, of that giving of ourselves, not connected to this outcome being permanent or anything, but walking into uncertainty and being fully present and fully alive and giving
Yes.
ourselves fully in this act of generosity. So I'm glad I have it recorded, because I'm going to cite you from now
Oh,
on.
good. Please do.
And I will give you credit, because I'm
Okay.
an honest person. Thank you so much for sharing that. Was Shanta, what would you like to lift up for you this week that we can celebrate?
I I did a lot. What stands out is the networking event that I went to on Saturday. It was called the Boss Connect, and it was a women's networking and empowerment event where, like, they had vendors, they had panelists, there was like a VIP brunch and things like that, and it was really fun. I was able to connect with some really awesome women who are doing great things in their businesses, and it was really inspiring to see some of the women who, like, started off similar to me, like in a job that they hated and not knowing where to turn next, and just kind of pursued until they were able to go full time into a business that they were passionate about. So it was nice to make those connections. I reached out to a few women who were on the panel, and they were really receptive of, like, meeting up, because a couple of them are local. So I'm excited to connect with them, like, one-on-one, and talk about their journey even more. So I'm excited.
Excellent. And so now for you, what do you know is possible after having that fabulous experience with all these amazing women?
More so knowing that I still have to be patient with myself, because there's going to be a time where it's going to be a struggle and not a lot of people are going to know your name. But if you're consistent and just keep working towards it, eventually it will get there.
Yes.
Yeah.
Ding, ding, ding. Which is a perfect setup for the quote that I selected for us today. So I'll share the quote, and then I'd love to hear both of your thoughts on this. But the quote is actually from the soccer player, Pele. So he says, "Success is no accident. It is hard work, perseverance, learning, study, sacrifice, and most of all, love of what you are doing or learning to do. So what are your thoughts on that?
It's definitely in line with what I've been experiencing. Just that, yeah, it's not going to happen overnight. It's going to come with proper planning and commitment. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Leslie, what are
Yeah,
you?
I love the fact that he starts with all of the things that you need to have, that you need to do. You can't just kind of love it. You've got to actually then make this effort,
Mm-hmm.
but making the effort independent of actually loving it makes that a whole lot of tiring activity. And I don't, saying that it's not worth it, it's not successful. So you can do all of those things. You don't have that undergirding.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's not, he doesn't feel that it's successful unless his heart is in it.
Mm-hmm.
And I think it's a good point.
Yeah, it kind of reminded me of the Corinthians scripture around, if I could preach with all this power and sing with the power of the angels and do all this stuff, but without love, that obviously success requires work. But we do the work because we love what we're doing. Mm-hmm. And because we love the people that we get to serve, and to do all of this work and get all these accolades, to have it disconnected from love, to me doesn't really feel like success. It feels like work.
Right.
Right. In a different way. So it's my pleasure to be able to, work with people that I find inspiring and that are doing great things in the world, and to support you in doing that on bigger levels and reaching more people, because to me that is love in action. So I'm honored as always that we have this time together. And before we get into talking about objection handling, I wanted to get an update on your progress for the last 2 weeks. So last time we were talking in the homework, I'd asked you to write a thank you letter from your future client. So I'd love to hear your reflections on that exercise and what that meant for you, and if you noticed any difference in how you approach sales kind of before and after the exercise.
So I didn't do the homework because I guess I didn't get that part of, I wasn't there during the last session. But you did send it to me. But I didn't go on and do it. But I can so easily see what that thank you letter from a future client would be, because the future client would be me, would be the type of person, would be the person who's in the situation that I've been in terms of caregiving. And, I can see that letter from a future client basically saying, thank you so much for providing me a safe space to connect with other people who were dealing with some of the same things that I was dealing with in terms of caregiving, and for helping me to feel important enough to take the time for the self-care, which has made all the difference.
How do you think you'd be feeling when you read that letter?
I would probably be feeling like I would be ready to cry, because it would mean so much to me that, because I know how much I need that, and feeling as though I had helped to provide that to someone else. That would be pretty amazing.
Yeah, pretty amazing. And how do you think after you've read that letter, you'd go into your next sales conversation where the person on the other side might be the next person to write you that letter?
Yeah. I mean, I would feel so, I would feel like, I was doing this really great thing, more so than I'm selling you a service. like, you got to get in on some of this because I know you need this because I know I needed it and other people have needed it. This would be such a blessing. That's how it would feel.
Yes, that you were sharing a blessing with someone.
Exactly.
Not selling them, not taking
Not selling them. Mm-hmm. Right. Sharing, this opportunity for them to get this blessing.
Mm-hmm. Yes, that's our goal. That's exactly the spirit in which we want to generate before we walk into a sales conversation. That's what it feels like to sell from the heart.
Yes.
Shanta, did you do your gratitude letter? Do you have any reflections?
Yes, I did do it, and I taped it on my wall in I call it my goddess room.
Oh, excellent.
It has my vision board. And
love that. I gotta get a goddess room.
But it's just something nice to look at and reflect on and see kind of a vision of where I want my journey to go and the impact that I want to have on the people that I serve. Mm-hmm. And it felt good writing it. It felt even better actually reading it because I read it out loud. So it was nice. It felt really good. And then maybe like a day or two after, I had actually gotten an email from a client who was saying, like, I haven't forgot about you. You have been such a blessing to me. And, I'm just trying to figure out my finances right now. But, I'm so grateful for the work that you do. And I was like, oh, I just manifested, this energy into my life. So I was excited about it.
That's right. It places in front and center of your mind the impact you are already making. That's not a future tense letter. Mm-hmm. It is the impact that you make already. And, people don't always have the time or thought to say thank you. So sometimes you have to say thank you to yourself. So I remember when my babies were little and, they couldn't talk. So I would thank me for changing their diaper and feeding them and taking good care of them because I needed it and they couldn't say it. So I'd say it for them. And so sometimes we say it for our clients, both the past and the future clients, but just really recognizing that this is the impact you're already making on people's lives. And as you said, Leslie, this is your business, is a blessing that you are sharing with other people and inviting them into. And so there's nothing dirty about selling. There's nothing immoral about it, unethical, because what we are doing is actually life-changing. And keeping that front and center of your mind can allow you to do it from that spirit of gratitude and not from that spirit of neediness, right? It's not about our bottom line. It's about really helping other people transform their lives in the way that they want.
It makes a big difference when you're not selling pickles for a living.
Yes, I wouldn't know how to sell pickles, but I'd say if we work on to sell pickles, I'd have to start with thinking about how are pickles going to help people's lives be better. Maybe it lowers your blood pressure. I don't know.
Right, something, yeah.
We got to find something. Because when we don't, then it feels so transactional and it feels like I'm only doing this for me. And so then I'm getting something and you're not. And, what I love about service-based businesses and about selling and the women that I work with are all women who do purpose-driven businesses, right? So the business is itself designed to enhance someone's life. So it's easier, not easy, but easier for us to share our services with other people because it is for them. Right. So now we get to deal with what happens when we invite them into this wonderful transformational experience that is a blessing for them. And they tell us no. What? What? What is going on here? So the first thing that I want us to think about when we're dealing with no is to think about if that objection, if that no is coming from us. So I've said this multiple times whenever I talk about sales, that sales is about certainty. And the person with the most certainty enrolls the other person. So if I am certain that my life cannot get any better, if I am certain that I don't have the money, if I am certain that this isn't going to work, and I am more confident in that than you are, then I will enroll you in that belief system. And if you are certain that my life can get better, if you are certain that what you have to offer can actually make a permanent difference in my life, and you are certain that you are the one to be committed enough to see me to the other side, then you enroll me in that certainty. So whenever we hear no, the first thing we want to think about is kind of check ourselves and think, what role are we playing in this? Because a sales conversation, like any other conversation, is interactive. And my belief system and my emotions and my attitude influences the other person I'm talking to. So that's why I love that you've written the letter, or that you can have it around you or think about it before you go into a sales conversation, because it places you in the frame of mind where you can transfer gratitude and love to the other person instead of the neediness. But what I'd like for you to do now is to do a self-assessment. So I have a question. The first one is, on a scale of 1 to 10, how certain are you that your service, how certain are you of your service, right? So that what you have to offer is actually good and valuable. So write down, on a scale of 1 to 10, how certain you are. And after you've written that, I'd like for you to write under it how certain you would like to be. So the first number is your current state. The second number is your target. So to sell effectively, we need to be certain of our service, that it is a solution to a very specific problem. But we also need to be certain of our pricing. So that's my second question. On a scale of 1 to 10, how certain are you about the pricing of your service? And then how certain would you like to be? And the third aspect is about customer service, right? Recognizing that whatever our customers go through, like whatever happens, we'll see you through, we'll figure it out together, we'll solve it. You'll be treated well. I'm not just going to take your money and run. So on a scale of 1 to 10, how certain are you about the quality of your business's customer service to meet your client at whatever they are and whatever they need? So on a scale of 1 to 10, how certain are you about the quality of your customer service? And then how certain would you like to be about the quality of your customer service? So what I'd like to do now is to ask you to share with me your current and your target, right? So for product service, this is my current, this is my target level of certainty. For pricing, this is my current, this is my target. Customer service, this is my current, and this is my target. So Shanta, you want to start?
Okay, so I couldn't just pick one service and product that I offer, so I did it for all of them. Because I do my therapy services. I feel like I'm a 10 out of 10. I think I'm adequately, like, I know it can help. Mm-hmm. And I've seen it help. Mm-hmm. I'm very I'm very certain about my therapy services.
Mm-hmm.
Coaching, I'm like a 7, and I'd like to get to a 10.
Okay.
I think mostly because I haven't had too many coaching clients.
Mm-hmm.
And so I don't have that reinforcement yet. Speaking at 8 out of 10 because I've done speaking and gotten really good feedback, but I'm not getting enough paid speaking engagements that I need to get to a 10. And then products, from the products that I do have, like my book, my t-shirts, and the 21-day challenge, I get good feedback, but not enough people are buying. So it kind of makes me feel that I'm not certain
So
what it is.
your number for your products?
So it was 6.
Mm-hmm.
And then I like to, of course, get to 10. Of course, I want to be perfect at everything. And then for pricing, I kind of put about a 5 out of 10 and wanting to get to 10 for coaching, speaking, and my products. But for therapy, I felt like I'm on target as far as products.
Okay.
Yeah, so 10 out of 10.
Did you get to customer service?
No, I didn't.
Because you had so many to go. I get it. That was great.
Yeah, I would say, in person, and on the phone, my customer service is good across the board. It's more so of the responding to email that I struggle with because I just don't always have time to respond to emails.
So what's your numbers?
So it would be about a 6,
and
I'd like to be at a 10
across
the board.
Okay, thank you. Leslie, what are your target numbers in your current?
Okay. In terms of the product and service, I have rated that a 10 in terms of the value of it, because I know, it would just be, it's very valuable. So I'm right there in terms of how certain I would like to be about the value of it. In terms of pricing, I have that all the way down at a 3 right now. And that's simply because I need to do some more exploration in terms of what would be the optimal pricing. So it's not a statement of, wow, I've got my pricing is really off. It's a statement of, I really need to lock down what that pricing should be, so that I would be able to feel like, okay, this is really where I need to go out with pricing. And for everything, I want it to be a 10.
Okay. I
just would. And in terms of customer service, so customer service is like a personal pet peeve of mine anyway in businesses that I'm dealing with. So whenever I've been in any business, customer service for me has always been at a 10, very responsive and really help people work through to what they need. But again, some of this is hypothetical for me at the moment. So what I don't know is what maybe some of the things would need to be that would be solved outside of general customer service. Right. So I've put it at a 7 now because it's a little bit more hypothetical. And it would definitely be at a 10 just because that's what I do.
That's the level at which you operate.
That's the level I operate. So,
right. Great. So what I'd like for you to do, we don't have time to do all of them, but I'd like for you to pick one area of certainty. So either service, product, or customer service. Sean, to pick one area for one product, for one, and identify 5 things that you could do to increase your certainty at that level. And, some of them you've already started talking about in terms of doing additional research or in terms of gaining more experience, but try to pick 5 things that you can do, actions you can control, not things outside of you. So I'll give you 1 minute to write those down. Okay, so that's our 1 minute time. What I'd like for you to do now is, of the options, these are 5 things I could do. I'd like for you to consider which one are you willing to commit to. So which of those actions are you willing to say, I will do this? And if you're going to commit to doing it, tell me, when are you going to do it? How are you going to know it's successful? Like, what's your metric that you're going to use? And when are you going to evaluate the success of that action? So those are the questions that I'd like for you to answer around that one action that you're committed to doing. And I'll give you an additional minute for that. That was a fast minute. So I'd love to hear your one action, and tell me, what you think this will help you increase your certainty in, and then tell me what it is that you're going to do. So Leslie, why don't you start with that?
Okay, my one action will be to conduct a competitive pricing analysis.
Mm-hmm.
To really help to determine the price elasticity of the service that I want to offer. It will, I'm sorry, you said how will it help to increase the certainty? Mm-hmm. So it will help me to see whether, it'll help with a few things. One will be to help me understand how much I need to scale the business in order to be able to, kind of eat and feed myself and take care of my kid. Mm-hmm. And it will help me to have the confidence to go out there with the pricing model that's really going to maybe work or appeal to clients. Mm-hmm. Kind of remove that level of uncertainty.
And when are you going to do your research?
Yeah, I'm going to do that. I said next week, Monday, but let me just check here. I'm going to do that. Yep. Monday is when I'm going to at least start it. Hopefully I'll be able to finish. I don't think I'm not doing like an in-depth pricing analysis, and price elasticity would take a very long time. Yeah. So this is going to be, I won't say rough and ready, but it'll be better than quick and dirty, but it won't be the full-blown thing. So I'm going to at least start it Monday, July 1st.
Okay. What time are you going to start that?
Let's say 11 o'clock in the morning.
Okay. All right. So let's put that down. Yeah. And then you can start. And the other thing I would say around pricing is, particularly when you're starting a new offer, what's most important is that you get the proof of concept and start working with people immediately. Mm-hmm. So even if you're not priced appropriately, mm-hmm. right, what'll be your official price, you can have a working price, right? Mm-hmm. It just matters that they pay you.
Right.
At that point, at the first point. So your first 8 clients, just let them pay you, right? Whatever your number is, and then that'll also help you with after you've done your research, then you'll know what your actual target number should be.
Yes.
So great, thank you. Sure. Shanta, what's your action?
I chose to do customer service because I felt like I knew exactly what I need to do for that. I would love to hire a VA, but that's not something I can readily do right now. So I decided to schedule times to respond to emails. Yes. So respond to them 3 times a day. My metric of knowing that it's working is that all emails and calls are responded to within a 24-hour time frame during the work week. Mm-hmm. And the scheduled times would be 9 a.m., 3 p.m., and 9 p.m. Like 9 a.m., 9, 3 p.m., 9 p.m. Those are my kind of transition times. Mm-hmm. Like I start my work in the morning, and then right when I end my lunch break, and then at the end of seeing clients is usually about 9:00.
Okay, great.
And I will start on Monday.
And how long are you going to, what's your scheduled time that you'll be responding to phone calls and emails?
I would try to give it an hour. That won't work.
That's very long. You want to spend 3 hours doing phone calls and emails?
I mean, I don't want to, but if it takes that long, I don't want to just say 20 minutes just because we've had this conversation. It takes me a long time to respond to emails. Like the simple ones of like scheduling an appointment. I have a set of templates that I use for that. That's really simple. But anything outside of that, I have to think about, and it takes me some time to do.
Okay. So what about having 2 30-minute sessions and one 1-hour session? So 2 hours a day on email.
Okay.
Can you do that? Yeah. Could I ask you not to have your first email in your first hour of coming to work?
Okay.
Just because when you first get there, that's your time to work on what you have decided is important. And whenever you open up email, then you start working on what other people, what's important to other people. And then you don't have time for your thing. So whatever you do email, that's great. To have it scheduled, that's your time and that's what you do. But email is not the most important work that you do. And so you don't want your primary thinking time to go for that. So at least an hour that you're at work that you're not doing email, and then you can go in and out with your thing. But that's great. Okay, so really the point is certainty is within our control, right? There are things that we can do to increase our certainty, and the actions that you've identified are excellent. And the more you take action, the more it influences your confidence and certainty. And that shows up in your sales call. So that's how we deal with the me part of it. So let's figure out how we deal with the buyer part of it. So there are 4 stages in this circle of persuasion. And that's what I'm going to share with you, a process that we take our buyer through after they've said no. So it only starts at no. So we've already gone through the I serve sales conversation format from a couple of months ago. So that's how you present your offer, and you end with inviting them, and you've done this great job, and then they say no. Okay, so that doesn't end the conversation. That's actually kind of the middle of the conversation. So the first thing that we do is we want to reestablish rapport with them. We want to reestablish our connection, because sales is a relationship, and relationships are built on trust and connection. And whenever someone says no, that disrupts that relationship. So think about how you feel when you tell somebody no, right? Like, what are they going to think of me? They're not going to like me anymore. You know, they're going to be mad at me. They're going to be all these punitive things. And so people actually are afraid of saying no, even to salespeople. Like, that's actually why we lie. We don't show up for appointments, right? Because it's easier to do all that other stuff than it is to actually tell somebody a straight answer of no. However, you know, clarity and honesty is very important. So I'd much rather have someone say no than pretend to all these other things. So whatever, and anything aside from a yes is a no. So if you invite someone to work with you and they don't say yes, whatever else they say is no. You should take it as a no. Don't go with, oh, they said maybe. That's still a no. And then we go through this process. So the first process is to reestablish rapport and let them know you don't think anything less of them. You're not mad at them. You haven't lost respect for them because they've said no, right? You want to help them relax, because when they say no, that raises their anxiety. And if you respond if your anxiety goes up, that kind of intensifies it. So when people say no, some of the things that you can say to to lower their anxiety, to reestablish rapport is, I'm so glad you raised that point. I'm really glad that you brought that up. Like, actually affirm for them, not only do they have every right to say no, but like, you're happy that they brought this up because that's actually what you wanted to talk about. So thank you for bringing this up. I can really appreciate where you're coming from. You don't have to agree with someone, but you can respect their position. You can understand where they're coming from. You can appreciate it. So that thank you. So the first is reestablishing rapport is to actually breathe yourself and thank them and make a quick connection with them. The second thing is to ask identifying questions. So this is where you start to ask questions to figure out what is really holding them back from moving forward and working with you. Now, it's rarely one thing that's stopping people from working with you, and it's rarely the actual first thing that they tell you, right? So they might say, I don't have money. They might say, this isn't a good time, whatever. So the thing that they say is the most socially acceptable reason that they think you're going to be like, oh, okay, and just leave it at that. But the thing that comes after that is often their real reasons. And if you can kind of get that and respond to their real reasons, I'm afraid I can't do it. I'm afraid, you'll be angry with me because I'm such a bad student. I'm afraid that, people will not like me anymore if I lose weight. Like, the real stuff is underneath the first level. And so how we do that is by asking identifying questions, right? So don't respond to their first no in terms of whatever challenge they brought up. You don't have to respond immediately. Just thank them for sharing that. Thank them for bringing that up. And then ask them, are there any other questions or any other concerns that's holding you back from taking action? Is there anything else? Is there anything else? And give them the space to tell you all of what those things are, and write them down because you're going to respond to each of them. So you want to know what they are. And after you feel like you've gotten all of their questions, then you want to ask something like, okay, so if we address your questions, would you be ready to take action? So that kind of gets them into, is there anything else that's really holding you back? And when they're like, yeah, no, that's basically it. Yeah, like, if we could figure out how to make it happen on Tuesday and how to make it, within my budget and how to make it where I can get the color that I want, all that, then yeah, I would buy it. Okay, great. Now we're ready to move on to the next stage. So asking identifying questions is kind of like that game, Hot Bread and Butter, Come and Get Your Supper. Like, when you would hide something and then your friends would have to find it, and you're like, you're warmer, you're cooler, that kind of thing. So that's what identifying questions are. Whatever concerns people have, they are actually letting you know you're warm or you're cool. Like, these are the things that I have that you haven't yet addressed. And so they're actually helping you to help them, right? They're giving you the opportunity to get to know what's really holding them back, and then you can support them in addressing those concerns. So that's the second phase. And then the third phase is where you present your answers. So they have legitimate concerns, and you give them enough respect to actually answer their concerns, to address it head on. So here's your presentation part where you're actually answering their questions. And it shouldn't be long. It should be like, to the point, answer the question, move on to the next. If they've given you 3, then you answer them, 1, 2, 3. And when you're answering their questions or addressing their concerns, you want to make reference to the things that you've learned about them in the sales conversation. So, I know you've talked about really wanting to lose this weight so that, you can be around to play with your grandkids. And so, you're concerned that exercise is going to be too rigorous for you, it's holding you back from that, but this is how we can make that exercise fun and not feel taxing, right? So you pull them back to what it is that they want or what their pain was, and you answer the question. So you kind of keep, that shows them you've been listening to them. You're not giving a sales script. You're responding to the things that they really want. And you are for them. You're trying to help them get what they want and get away from the things that they don't want. So that's the third phase. And then that leads immediately into the fourth phase, which is asking your closing question. So questions are the most important thing in a sales conversation. The person who asks the questions is the person who is in control of the conversation. So you direct the conversation by your questions. And our responsibility is to direct the conversation that leads the person to making a decision. Doesn't so much matter if they buy or not, but they need to decide. And they need to decide based on what's important to them, not based on how much money we want to make this month. And so it is hard for people to make decisions. Decisions is stressful for them. Like, even when it's not attached to money, it's just hard. And people will use all kinds of excuses to procrastinate, postpone, avoid, deflect making decisions. And so how we serve the people in front of us is we keep structuring the conversation with a question so that it guides them to a decision. And ultimately, if they're like, my decision is no, I'm not going to prioritize my health, that's fine. Like, that's their decision. But they need to make a decision and not live in this realm of excuses. So that's where closing questions really come in. The closing question is you asking them to make a decision about, are they going to change this? Or are they going to stay the same? And once they understand the consequences of staying where they are, and once they understand the kind of support that you can give them in changing, it's up to them to decide what it is that they want to do. Like, you've done your job if you've clearly communicated those two things. So the closing question, you go straight from your answer, answering the question, to a closing question that asks them to take action immediately, right? So, let's get started. Let's pick a date where we can start the program, or do you want to do a 3-month option or a 6-month option? So in your closing question, you ask the question as if they have already agreed that they're going to say yes. You assume the sale. Okay, so that's the process, the 4 stages that we go through. I want to spend a minute to talk about a trial close versus a direct close. So a trial close is when you're testing out if the buyer is ready to take action. So what I asked earlier with my identifying question, when I said, if we answer your questions, if I can answer your questions to your level of satisfaction, would you be ready to take action today? That's a trial close. It's a if then question. And it's, I could say things like, if you were to become my client, would you want to take advantage of my pay in full discount? If we were to go ahead and do this, which color would make the most sense for you? Or what time would it make sense for you to start? So what you're doing is getting them to imagine themselves being your client, owning your product, right? And that is very helpful. The benefits of the trial close is that it's much more relaxing. It's a hypothetical question. So they haven't actually told you, yes, I will be your client. They're just imagining, well, if I was your client, this is what I'd like to do. So it's less stressful. It's also that you can ask a whole lot of closing trial questions throughout the conversation. So it gives you a way of gauging how close are they to making a decision, right? If they can't answer your trial questions affirmatively, they're probably further away from making a decision to say yes than if they could answer the trial question. If they can say yes at the trial question, then it's just, okay, we just have to, make sure all the paperwork is in order, but they want what it is that you have to offer. So that's what a trial close looks like, whereas a direct close is you actually asking for the sale, right? And in a direct close, you assume the sale. You ask them a question, but you ask them a question that assumes the sale. So there are three criteria to an effective close. The first is that you write it out in advance, right? Because when we hesitate or stumble over our words, particularly around asking for a sale, it communicates a lack of conviction. And so then our buyer thinks, well, she's not really sure, so I'm not really sure. So if you can't say anything smoothly, the part that has to be absolutely smooth is how you lead into your direct close question. The other key to effective closing is for you to remain relaxed, right? Take a deep breath. Smile when you're asking people for their money, right? Like this is a gift. You're giving them an opportunity. You're sharing a blessing with them. You're doing good for them, right? There's nothing to be ashamed of. You're happy, you're relaxed. So the same way you would read your thank you letter is the same way you ask for the sale, without all of the kind of anxiety that comes with that. So I would say pay attention to how you act when you're nervous. Do you talk faster? Does your voice change intonation? There are particular hand movements that you have. And so the more you can know how your body responds when you're nervous, you can use that information to tell you, once you see yourself doing that, now it's time to breathe and smile. And that will relax you and you can move on with your close. And the third kind of equally important key is to remain silent. Silence is a very important part of a sales conversation because silence gives the buyer time to think, and it signals to them, oh, this is the time when you make a decision. So if you keep talking after you've asked them to make a decision, then the buyer thinks, oh, I don't have enough information to make a decision, so I should get out of decision-making mode and listen. And you don't want them in listening mode. You've shared everything, that you've answered all their questions. Now it's time for them to make a decision. And now you're quiet to allow them to have the thinking that they need to make the decision. So what we're going to do now is practice our closes. So the first thing I'd like for you to come up with 3 trial closes and 3 direct closes. So a trial close is kind of a if-then, right? If we were to do this, would you? And a direct close is something that assumes the sale and asks them to take action, to sign up, to buy the product, to enroll in the service. So I'll give you 2 minutes and we will do a quick version of that. All right. So what I'd like to do now is to have you practice giving a, you can give me a trial close or a direct close. But either way, when you give, so I'm going to be your buyer. I want you to give me a closed question. I want you to breathe deeply. I want you to smile. I want you to wait for my answer and kind of be comfortable with the silence. So who wants to go first? Thank you, Shanta.
Okay. I guess I'll go with the one I like to use. So when would you like to schedule your appointment?
Not sure. Okay. Thank you. Leslie, can you give me a close?
Okay. I'll go with the trial close.
Mm-hmm.
So if we could find the days in the schedule that would work within your constraints, would you be ready to start our sessions?
maybe. Thank you.
Mm-hmm.
So I don't want to say yes for either, because we're going to pick this up and you're going to do the follow-up close for me. But before we do that, I want you to write out your full close. So in both answers, I've told you maybe, which means no. So now we're going to go through the whole process of the circle of persuasion. So once you've asked me and I've said no, which I said, then we're going to go through reestablishing rapport. We're going to ask identifying questions. We're going to give the answers, and we're going to end with another closing question. So first, I'd like for you to identify, I want this to be meaningful for you. So what's the primary objection that you usually get, or for you, Leslie, that you would expect to get most commonly from your potential buyer? So I'd like for you to write that down. And then I want you to write out your answers to that. So once they've said whatever you think they're going to say, how could you reestablish rapport? What could you say to them that would communicate support and affirmation, and that they didn't do anything wrong, and that you're still in their corner, you're still their advocate? Then what kinds of questions would you want to ask to get at what the underlying issues are? And then how would you address those questions? So given that they have identified them for you. And finally, what would your closing question be? You could use one of the three that you've already written. So I'll give you for this 3 minutes to work through this cycle, and then we're going to practice it. So let's get started now with your questions. Okay, so that's our timer. Before we get into our practice session, do you have any questions about what you've written, or just kind of working through the process?
I don't think I'm really clear on the identifying questions.
Mm-hmm.
Kind of got stuck there.
Go ahead.
Yeah, that's it.
So the purpose of an identifying question is to get at what else is going on. So first, is there anything else? Is always your kind of first identifying question. Mm-hmm. As a therapist, you understand like what people tell you is surface, and there's something below that. And so that is, what question could you ask that would get them to start talking about what's below that, the harder things that they don't really want to tell you.
Okay. I feel like I understand the purpose. I guess I'm just trying to figure out what would be a good question to ask related to the actual concern that I typically get.
Mm-hmm. So, first, is there anything else? Or you could start with, I've found that oftentimes people, immediately think whatever, money, but that's really, not the only reason or the most challenging thing about making this kind of commitment. How about you? Are there other things aside from money that would stop you from doing this? Or, so one of the things that I use is, people often talk about money. So I say what I have found is that the decision comes first and money comes after. So if you only need money to do the things that you've already decided that you want to do. So does this sound like something that you would really want to do regardless of the money? And that gets them to talk about what are some of the other things aside from money that might stop them from doing it.
Okay.
Or if I gave you a scholarship and you didn't have to pay for it, is this something that would be useful for you? Or is there something else that would really stop you from doing this?
So if they do say it really is the money, it's nothing else,
mm-hmm.
then I don't know.
So is money your thing that you're working with?
Yeah, because that's the comment I get all the time. And I usually just say, thank you for letting me know your concerns. I know therapy can be a big investment, and I want to make sure that it won't cause any additional stress for you. And then after that, that's where I usually get stuck, even on the phone.
So it's rarely ever money. It's not money there because people pay for the things that they actually do want. But sometimes I will ask things like, if I could help you identify the money, would that be helpful for you? Like, so, lots of clients can't immediately think about where that money is. It's not sitting around waiting to be spent. So could I share with you some ways that other people like you who've wanted to join the program have financed that and made that possible? Would that be helpful to you? So then if they say yes, then we're on the same side and we're figuring out how, and then I have a list of 10 ways that people get money. But it's a brainstorming session. And then it's like, well, these are the things that I've seen. How about this? Try this. And we do it one at a time, from the easiest to the hardest. And if that didn't work, oh, that's okay. Lots of times that doesn't work. This is another option that people have. But yeah, the money is not, because if I actually told you, I could sell you Microsoft stock right now for $5 a share, but you have to buy $500 worth, would you buy it? Of course you would. Oh yeah. Whatever you needed to do to get the money, you do it because you know it's worth it. Like, so that's how I know it's not money. You can get the money once you understand the value. So just having it in your own mind that it's not money, and then helping them to see it's not money, right? If it really is money, then all you need is a creative plan to get money if you actually want this. And I can help you with that if you really want it. But if you don't really want it, there's no point talking about money. We have to talk about why it's not valuable to you, why you don't see the value. Does that help?
Yeah.
Leslie, what questions do you have?
Yeah, so the question that I was dealing with, I'm not sure if I did this correctly because I went to assuming that the objection that they raised was an actual legitimate objection. So, and that was around the thought of not having enough time to actually be able to engage in this service. And I thought that, yeah, that would probably be what comes up most often, because when you're caregiving, the thing you don't have, you feel you don't have enough of, is time for yourself. So I'm assuming that, yeah, this is kind of, the payment, and they're always going to have a problem with money, but don't have enough time. So is it okay that I focused on that?
It is, because that's not a legitimate reason.
Okay.
That's actually why they need you.
Right, exactly. So then my thought was, what I didn't do though was kind of go to, well, is there anything else, and is there anything else? I was kind of like, yeah, let's zoom in on that, because that might have been where I departed. But in terms of reestablishing rapport, what I would say would be something along the lines of, thank you so much.
Well, you're going to get to say it to me. We're going to practice it.
Oh, we're going to, okay, got it.
Yeah. I just wanted to know if you had a general question about the process.
So my process after hearing you speak was, I don't know if I did it the right way, but yeah, I did focus on not having enough time, but I didn't go to the digging deeper to see if there was more.
Yeah. Always ask at least one question. Always ask, is there anything else? Because what it gets you from is getting to the point where you've addressed it. Yeah. And then you close them, and then they're like, but my dog.
One more thing. Right.
Yeah. And then you go back and forth. So get it all out at one time. So always give them that one.
Got it. Okay.
So I'm ready now. So I'll be your practice person. And we'll run through, I'll be the buyer. What I'd like for you to do is to start me off with a recap of, because I'm in your imagination, I'll be whatever character you make for me, of what, so, you know, recap what my challenges were, right? So what my pain was and what I wanted to get, and, you know, how your program will help me get that, and then offer me my first closing question, invite me into the program. I'm going to say no. And then we're going to go back from there. So for you, I'm going to say no, I don't have the time. So we're going to then work from that one. So while we're doing that, Shanta, what I'd like for you to do is to listen to, you're going to give feedback to us. And the feedback is what worked, what didn't work, and what might she want to do differently next time. And then we'll switch it, and I'll be Shanta's buyer. Okay. So any questions before I go into my role of buyer?
No, I don't think so. I'm just kind of now gathering my brain around, oh my gosh, there's more that I've got to do now. But okay, I think I'll just go with it.
Yeah, we're flowing.
We'll see where it goes.
Okay, I'm ready. Go ahead.
All right. So Keisha, I've so appreciated our time together. I understand the things that you are dealing with in your role as a caregiver and not feeling as though you've got enough sort of emotional support for the things that you're dealing with, feeling isolated. Just how do you handle these issues of self-care, and how do you really recharge? Mm-hmm. I know that's a huge thing because the battery gets depleted. Yeah. And so what, I'm sorry, Keisha, let me just stop for a second. So I'm giving you the recap and then I'm going directly into the close. Is that what I'm doing?
And that's why I'd like to help you with that.
Okay, got it. Okay. And so understanding, and so coming from a place of really understanding what that's like, I would really like to offer you the opportunity to participate in this program that I so strongly believe in. It would be you and a small group of other female caregivers, and we would have an opportunity to share the things that are going on in our lives. We would be able to use some wonderful tools of storytelling to get at the heart of some of the things that we've experienced. We'll also get into some fun things like poetry writing, creative writing, and just interacting and sharing and kind of having our own private open mic, all geared towards sort of that recharge and that refresh of the battery. And so what I'd like to know is if you're ready to join the group.
I like the way it sounds, you know, but yeah, caring for my mother really takes up all of my time and working. So yeah, it sounds like it would be a cool group, but I don't think I really have the time for it.
Yeah. Wow. I was so where you were. I'd say about a good year ago. So thank you so much for bringing that up. I'd like to find out if there are any other things that are really kind of holding you back from participating at this point.
No, I think it's fine. Sounds like a good group. Just, yeah, I can't make time magically appear, so.
Yeah. Okay. I get that. And so there are no other objections that you have or no other issues, things that would get in the way. It's really around the time piece, having the time to participate. Yeah. Oh boy, I tell you, I just kind of want to give you a hug right now and say it'll be okay. I can so relate to that feeling of, yeah, I don't have time for myself. I've got time for everyone else who needs my care, but I don't have time for me, and how do I do it? So one of the things that I do want to say to you is that understanding how important your role of caregiver is also understand that you will be an even better caregiver if you come back recharged and renewed, reinvigorated, and can work through some of the things that we've talked about around those feelings sometimes of resentment or depletion. If you can actually find some ways to find time for yourself, it's worth it. So think of it this way. You've got however many hours in a week. If you can carve out just one hour out of all of the hours during the week for yourself, you will get so much out of that, and you will come back and you'll feel happier for yourself, and you'll feel happier for the other people that you're dealing with. I can tell you some of the things that I've been able to do to come up with freeing up some time in the schedule. And if you'd like to hear about that, and I can tell you about some of the things that other people have kind of put in place so that they can work around some of their constraints. Mm-hmm. Would you like to discuss some of those?
Sure, yeah.
Okay, so the first thing is some people have felt like, yeah, I'm really homebound, and so I really cannot leave the person that I'm caring for. I wouldn't feel comfortable. And what we've been able to do in those instances is have a combination of people who are participating via something like Skype or live meeting, et cetera, while the rest of us are in the group. And you literally would have your own chair and place the laptop right on the chair, and you'd be in the group, the circle with us, and you'd be able to participate. Mm-hmm. So still be able to be home, but you'd be able to participate in the group. Mm-hmm. Is that something that you think might work?
I get my own chair.
You get your own chair with a cushion.
And for days that I could come, mm-hmm. I could show up in person.
Yeah, so for the days that you would want to come, you would have still that same chair and that same cushion, and you'd be a part of the group. And the great thing is you then get to interface with the other women in the group. You'll see what they look like, you'll hear their voices, and you'll be really a part of us when you cannot physically be there. Mm-hmm. And then, we can work towards even brainstorming within the group ways that you may be able to free up that time to be physically present with the group.
Mm. You want to ask me a question?
Oh, I wasn't sure if I was supposed to let you just sit there quietly. Okay, so does that sound like something that could work for you, or do you think that there are any other challenges that you might face in that situation?
I'm going to give it a try.
Awesome. That is fabulous. Yay. Welcome to the group. Yay.
Okay, so end scene. So Shanta, please give us your thoughts. What worked, what didn't work, and what might we want to do differently? Really sweating.
I am sweating. I'm so hot here. These wonderful old homes with no central air.
Okay, so I loved how relatable you are, just, giving that feedback of I was in your position. I completely understand. I think that really engaged Keisha. I also liked your explanation of your program. Like, you were very concise with it and gave a lot of good information to give a good picture of what they would be joining. What didn't work was there was a point where I kind of felt like you were just telling her, like, this would be good for you, this would be good for you, without asking kind of some follow-up questions to see, even more what time constraints she may think she may have or things like that. But you eventually got to it when you asked if she would be open to hearing some of your strategies about kind of freeing up some time.
Okay.
So, yeah. And then also sometimes part of me was like, oh, that's really creative that you're able to restructure your group in that way to still accommodate her. But then I also think, well, what if there's like a whole bunch of people who want that option as well?
Right. How many chairs do you have, right?
But I thought about that too. I thought it was like really creative, like to be on the spot. And then I was like, what if everybody says they want to do that? So yeah.
Great. Yeah, I would say, well, Leslie, do you have your immediate comments about what worked for you or what you'd like to do differently?
Well, I think that what I would probably, because there are a few levels. There are people who are going to feel like they can't leave their house at all. And so you have to solve for those. But then there are people who would love to leave their house. You could just help them come up with, a solution to do that. And so that was going to be kind of my next level. If it was like, well, yeah, I could do that, but I really like to get out of here. Then it's like, okay, well, let's talk about the things that you could put in place so that you can leave your loved one for an hour. So that was going to be kind of, I was trying to think of, okay, what are my different levels of, I can't leave my house. I'd love to leave my house if we can figure out why. I'm out of my house right now. I never want to go back. So there are all these different levels. And so I was just trying to think of, sort of, as you were talking about taking them through the conversation, like you might put one thing out and they're like, yeah, that's not going to work. Okay, well, what about this? What if we could do that? Well, what if we could do that? So,
well, I thought Shanta's point of asking those questions and your identifying questions thing was good. So for me, my problem is I don't have the time, but then asking, is it I don't have the time out of my house? Do I want to be out of my house? Like those would be the times to ask it, almost like a matrix, so you can figure out a decision-making tree. So then you could figure out what my
exactly,
and then move into your answer of addressing that. I loved how you affirmed for me, like, I totally get you. When you told me you wanted to give me a hug, like I actually did feel hugged. I felt affirmed and supported, like, I'm not crazy. Like, this is a real challenge. And I didn't feel you judging me. So that love and support really came through. And when it was time, so another thing that you can do with identifying questions is get the person to talk about what they like about the program, to let them sell themselves. So, okay, so I get it. So for you, time is really the issue. Well, what makes this, if you had enough time, why would this be a good use of your time? Or what makes this valuable for you? And then so now you'll know what's important to them about it.
Right.
And then if it's getting out the house that's important, then you can kind of structure around there.
Yeah.
And in your question, so towards the end, you did what a lot of people do, which is give information, and then you thought I was going to give you a decision just because you had answered my question, but you hadn't asked me to make a decision. So you go immediately from answer the question. Once you've answered all my questions, you go into the decision. Like, you ask me to make a decision, and then you're silent. The silence comes after that.
Okay, so can you say that part again? Say that, yeah.
So once you answer all of my questions, so mine was around time.
Right.
Figure out how I could be present even if I can't leave my house.
Right. Yeah.
Then you go immediately into, so, would you love for us to start? I forgot what your closing question was. What was your question?
Well, actually, I didn't get to the closing question, but the closing question was, if we could find the days that would work for your schedule, within your challenging schedule, would you be ready to start our session?
Okay, so that's a trial.
Join the group. Mm-hmm.
And then you go to a direct close.
Right.
Right. So, so after you got to 3 where you answered my question,
right,
give me a close.
Right.
So answer my question, go immediately into the close.
Immediate close.
Immediate into a close. You can do a trial close and then a direct close, but always go into close because, yeah, we kind of feel like people make decisions because they have enough information, but people make decisions because we ask them to.
We ask them to make the decision. Yes.
So you want it.
Are you ready to join the group?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
How soon would you like to start?
Would you like to start? Mm-hmm.
With the smile. I love the smile too that you gave. I felt it. So Shanta, we have, can we do 5 minutes for you? Can I entertain you?
Yeah, that's
Okay.
fine.
All right. Okay. I got you. So I'm ready. I'll be your buyer. Just set me up with a review what I did, do a recap and start me, and then we'll walk me through and Leslie will give us feedback.
Yeah, I'm going to mute my phone because a door has just opened that was closed.
Okay. It's your cat.
Okay. So hi, Keisha. It has been such a pleasure chatting with you today and learning about your desire to really prioritize your pleasure. I know that you are so busy with your career and just trying to become this boss chick that you are. And you're not really having time for not only self-pleasure, but having partnered relationships with the people that you love and the person that you love. And so I want to make sure that I offer you the opportunity to come into therapy, because I think that we can definitely explore some of those reasons that may be keeping you from really focusing on yourself and on your sexual needs, and how to make room for that into your life. Does that sound good?
It sounds good.
Okay, but is there any concerns that you feel you may not be able to take this next step?
Well, it sounds expensive.
Okay, so therapy is an investment. What I find that, people who are really ready to make this change and really ready to focus themselves, they figure out how to pay for this without it causing too much stress within their lives. And, if you're open to it, I can also offer some suggestions if you would like some.
Okay, what do you got?
So for one thing, there are folks, if you have insurance, we can determine if your insurance provider gives you out-of-network benefits. And what that means is that I would give you a form that lists all of your sessions that you had with me, and then you could submit that to them for reimbursement, and they'll pay you directly if they do decide that you have those out-of-network benefits. And it's a simple process. And of course, I would help you through every step with that.
What else you got?
There's also just looking at a budget, looking at where you're spending your money and ways that you can either move it and allocate it towards therapy itself, because it is important that you really hone in on what is going to make you happy and be your best self. Because from what you've told me in the past, earlier in our conversation, is that you're really struggling right now and you want to find a space in your life where you're focusing on you and you're making sure that you get your needs met.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I do.
Mm-hmm. So how does that sound as far as maybe us even sitting down in one of our sessions and creating a budget for you and exploring different ways that you can cut back on certain things in order to afford the sessions?
So you do therapy and financial counseling?
Yes, I do, on some level.
For what?
I can't get deep dive into it, but we can definitely explore some of the things that maybe that you don't realize that you're spending, because sometimes people have those like automated expenses and they don't really realize like, oh, I'm paying for this and I don't even use it anymore.
Okay, I can do it. We can give that a shot.
Okay, great. So when would you like to schedule your first appointment?
Tomorrow.
Awesome. So let me get your information and I'll send you over the intake information.
Okay, thank you.
Great.
All right. Leslie, would you like to give us some feedback, please?
Yes. So I was really struggling with finding anything wrong with what you were doing.
It's just
I was like, I'm going to find something and then I'll be able to give her a constructive. So anyway, I thought that you did a really excellent job with fully stating what the problem was that they were facing, that they were encountering, what their struggles were. You mentioned before that you always had difficulty when it got to the point in the conversation where it was speaking about money and dealing with that question. And I actually didn't sense any, uncertainty or if you were feeling ill at ease, it doesn't come through on your face. You seemed pretty comfortable to me in terms of making that transition. I thought that you did well with finding out, probing to see if there were any other issues, and bringing up the other options, and also bringing it back to what their pain points were that they wanted to address through working with you. I thought that that was very smooth and very timely in terms of how you kind of refocused their attention on the reason why they would want to actually do your service, and tying it in there, having that added sort of let me help you problem solve. I thought that that was very well done. So, you have this issue and I'm willing to sort of work with you without giving away all my trade secrets, but I'm going to, work with you and help you to understand how you can actually be able to work this within your finances. That went right for that was your really solid trial close with a problem that you were helping them to solve, and then you went right for the direct close. So I thought it was very well done.
Yes, I would agree. It was very well done. And what I would add in terms of an opportunity is to get to invite your buyer to tell you why they want your program. Right. So again, I hear money is an issue. So money aside, why are you attracted to this program, or how do you think it would help you? And get me focused on that. And then when you're doing the close, to remind me of what it's costing me not to fix my problem. So if I talk about the value that I get from it and you're like, yeah, I really want you to have this, Keisha, and, not doing anything is, stressing you out, and you talked about whatever. So kind of that was the opportunity to go into doing that. And then I love the problem solving. I would say if you have a couple of things that people generally do. So if people usually get their nails done, right? Costs maybe $30 to get your nails done. If you do it on a weekly basis, I don't know my math, $120, whatever. So asking, is this something that's in your budget? Well, really, if we could help you, create a life where you were feeling all of this pleasure and joy on a daily basis and your toes are curling, and it was for what you pay to get your nails done, would that be valuable for you? And kind of helping people to think about what they're already spending their money on and why that they might want to reallocate it to you. But talking whatever you're going to do in your finance thing, kind of pulling it back in a general category, and just, working it out like that. Like the commercials where for what you pay for Starbucks coffee, you could have, a fabulous life and a new car. That kind of stuff. So any thoughts, Shanta, for you about?
That was definitely nerve-wracking.
Well, you didn't show it, which is great.
Yeah. Yeah, I do like the idea of reminding the buyer what they would be losing if they didn't sign up for the program based off of their own words. So I definitely want to try to incorporate that. And yeah.
And just remember, whatever you say, they don't believe, but whatever they say, they do believe. So that's why the question is better. So instead of telling them, you'll get this, ask them, well, how do you think it would help you? And get them to say it. It's the same thing, but yeah, it's more believable. So now we have some resources to practice kind of in response to the no. So no is not the end of the conversation. No is just where we start. And we have a process to kind of move us through. So like everything else, the more you practice, the better you'll get at this. So practice. When we come back together, I'll have a chance for you to give me some feedback. Hopefully people will tell you no between now and 2 weeks. So you'll have a chance to practice that experience. And there's nothing wrong with the answer no. That is perfectly appropriate and probably the first answer you'll get most of the time. So we should be prepared to deal with it and kind of stay with them and let them know that you're their advocate and you want them to get freedom more than anything else. And that's what it's about. So thank you for your attention and time and participation. Thank you for staying a little bit later. And I look forward to connecting with you next month. We're starting a new thing. So we're doing our mindset month. So we'll be focusing on that, but we will do a follow-up on this. All right. So have a great night.
Okay. Thank you. Same to you.
Thank you. Bye.
Bye.